Texas Governor Greg Abbott enraging the open border zealots in this country with that letter that he handed to Biden this past weekend. Abbott describing what's happening at the border as an invasion, slamming Biden in the letter for not doing the fundamental parts of his job, like maintaining a sovereign border for this country. We all know the way the media has covered immigration thus far has been horrific. Check out this recent headline from the Dallas Morning News, where they point out that camouflage is a common practice used by Mexican drug cartels and smugglers to sneak back and forth across the border. While at the same time, a few days earlier, the same paper, the Dallas Morning News, also wrote an op-ed over Abbott's letter to Biden, claiming that it repeats ugly rhetoric characterizing the border crisis in military terms that risk portraying all migrants as enemy combatants. So kind of all over the place there. Governor Abbott joins us now. And sir, it's good to have you on the show. I do think it's quite pitiful that there's so much concern for the language around this problem from a media that refuses to report on the tremendous real damage that's being done by having what is essentially an open border.
Yeah, it's a head-in-the-sand approach, both by the media as well as by the Biden administration. Yeah. Neither the administration nor the media wants to see anything done about the open border policies that have been unleashed by the Biden administration. Let's just go back real quick. 2.5 years ago, we had the lowest number of illegal border crossings in decades because of 4 simple policies that were put in place by the Trump administration. Title 42, remain in Mexico, end catch and release, and build a border wall. That's all that Biden had to do, was to continue those efforts. But because Biden eliminated Trump's strategies, it led to the highest number of illegal border crossings ever. And Texas is having to deal with the consequences of it.
Yeah, certainly. You know, I want to ask you this, because you've been criticized by some Republicans for not doing enough to secure the border in your own state. And I know it should be a federal issue, but in the wake of it not being handled by the federal government, you've declared the migrant crisis as an invasion. We've seen, though, there was a Newsweek article that quoted Ken Cuccinelli saying that you could stop these people in the middle of the river, but you're not doing that. I wanted to get your response to that. I wanted to ask you why, if that's true, why are you not?
So actually what we are doing is we have both the Texas National Guard as well as the Texas Department of Public Safety that are deployed to the border. And one thing the Texas National Guard actually does is to turn back people who are trying to cross the border. And so we, in fact, are turning back tens of thousands of people who are trying to come across the border. And as you all may have shown on your own show, you remember it was a couple of weeks ago, we had this vast stream of people pouring across the border into El Paso. Right. And then what the state of Texas did and the National Guard did, we took control of that operational area. We put concertina wire as well as fencing up, and suddenly the inflow of people coming across the border stopped.
So just to clarify, would you say that Cuccinelli is wrong in that criticism, that you are doing everything that you can to prevent this problem in your state?
Cuccinelli is wrong for a couple of different reasons. Okay. One thing that we are doing, pursuant to my invasion declaration in order to the Texas Department of Public Safety to arrest people and return them to the border, he says we should actually take them into Mexico. He's wrong about that for 2 reasons. One, it ignores the reality that if a Texas law enforcement officer were to step into Mexico, they would be arrested or worse in Mexico. And so it ignores that. But it also, Rob, ignores this very simple fact, and that is we have returned literally thousands of people across the border. Do you think someone's going to come from Nicaragua or Mogadishu or wherever they may come from, make it to the border, and have us take them right back across the border and say, well, you know, we tried, we're going to go back home to Mogadishu? That's not going to happen. What they do, in fact, they go 1 mile down the border and they just cross again. Here's the part that Cuccinelli refuses to recognize, and that is, despite Texas's record efforts, the problem is still going to exist as long as we have a federal government that has this open border policy. Under President Trump, when we did not have an open border policy, it did lead to the lowest number of illegal crossings in the past 3 or 4 decades. Right. That is what we need.
I want to get back to your letter to the president from last week. You criticized him for avoiding seeing really any of the harm. As we understand it, he didn't see one migrant. Going to pull a quote here from the letter. You said your visit avoids the sites where mass illegal immigration occurs and sidesteps the thousands of angry Texas property owners whose lives have been destroyed by your border policies. The White House cleared out El Paso for this visit, as we saw in the before and after pictures that were just astounding. Your letter was spot on. I assume they never responded to that letter.
No, so that was my 8th letter to President Biden, and he hasn't responded to any of them. But I point out 2 things in that letter. One is what you said, and that is that he got a sanitized version of El Paso. Remember, he went to a migrant center and didn't even meet with any migrants. How absurd is that? And so he did not get to see the extraordinary volume of people coming across the border because of his policies. But the other thing that I put into that letter, which is more important, the president says he wants to see bipartisan approaches to trying to address the situation. I provided him 5 tangible things he could do right now without passing a single new law, and that would secure the border and stop illegal immigration coming across the border.
Yeah. Well, you know, it was a good letter. He might not have responded to it. I hope he at least read it, because he needs to see what he's doing to your state. It's abysmal. And, sir, we want to thank you so much for coming on the show. We appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you.